You ever notice how politics feels a lot like poker? Everyone's bluffing until the cards hit the table. And lately we've seen a few powerful hands get exposed. Chuck Schumer tried to corner Donald Trump with a government shutdown. But instead of folding, Trump flipped the script in one move. He forced Democrats to defend the same corporate interests they've spent decades criticizing. Meanwhile, up in New York, a so-called progressive revolution is already imploding, and voters are responding with their feet, packing up and heading south to Florida. Two meltdowns, one lesson. When power is built on illusion, reality always cashes in the chips. This was no ordinary shutdown. It became the longest in American history. Democrats, led by Schumer, thought they had leverage. They'd keep the government closed until Republicans agreed to extend billions in Obamacare subsidies. On paper, that sounded compassionate, help people afford health care, but the fine print told a different story. Massive payouts to insurance companies, no real guarantee of lower premiums, and mountains of waste. Schumer's plan depended on pressure. As workers missed paychecks, he expected Republicans to cave, but Trump doesn't play by those rules. He waited, then dropped a curveball. Instead of funneling money through insurers, he proposed sending it straight to Americans in personal health care accounts. Money people could spend directly on doctors, medication, and treatments. It was a masterstroke. Democrats were suddenly trapped defending corporate subsidies while Trump was out there saying, let people decide for themselves. At the same time, New York City's new mayor, progressive rising star, Zohran Mamdani, was watching his own image crash and burn. Within days of winning, reports surfaced. Luxury trips, insider ties, and a transition team stacked with political operatives from the very establishment he promised to oppose. Supporters who had believed in change started asking the obvious question, did we just get played? Then came the economic fallout. Wealthy and middle-class New Yorkers alike began packing up, moving trucks, rolling south. Florida real estate agents reported a wave of calls almost overnight. Private flight bookings spiked. Locals in Miami and Palm Beach started buying property early. Explains why people are leaving progressive strongholds for places like Florida, Texas, and Tennessee, states where governments step back and let citizens run their own lives. It's not partisan. It's a shift toward decentralization, smaller communities, and local accountability. Call it a political realignment or a return to common sense. Either way, it's happening. Trump's populist policies, from healthcare savings accounts to tackling food price manipulation, are aimed squarely at everyday Americans. And each time Democrats defend the status quo, they lose another chunk of the working class base they once owned. This movement isn't about one man or one party. It's about rejecting control disguised as compassion and bureaucracy dressed up as progress. But instead, Trump did what he always does, flipped the table, changed the rules, and made the Democrats defend the one thing they swore to hate, big corporate money. You can't make this stuff up. The same party that spent years screaming about corporate greed is now out here fighting to shovel billions to insurance companies instead of regular people. It's poetic and politically devastating. The setup was classic Washington theater. Schumer and Senate Democrats said, let's keep the government closed until Republicans give us what we want. Another round of Obamacare subsidies. Sounds compassionate, right? We just want to help people afford health care. But anyone who's been paying attention knows how that story goes. Billions flow into corporate coffers while ordinary Americans. That's not just smart. It's a masterclass in political inversion. Trump didn't just win the argument. He rewrote the entire frame. And while that was happening in D.C., New York was having its own little meltdown. Mayor Zohran Mamdani, the self-styled democratic socialist who promised to end inequality and usher in a new era of fairness, exposed himself in record time. Within days of winning, he was rubbing elbows with elite donors at luxury resorts and surrounding himself with the same political operatives who drove the city into the ground under de Blasio and Bloomberg. The guy ran on power to the people and ended up empowering the same insiders he claimed to fight. And guess what? The city's residents noticed almost overnight. You saw it. The private jets leaving LaGuardia, the moving trucks, Volt, they relocate. Forget left versus right. That battle's old news. The real fight is between trust and control. Trump's healthcare idea says, I trust you with your own money. Schumer says, we'll take care of you. Don't ask questions. Mamdani promised empowerment, but governed like every other bureaucrat. That's the difference. And people are starting to see through it. They're tired of being treated like children who can't handle responsibility. They want leaders who trust them to make choices, not ones who constantly interfere in their lives. That's why Florida's booming, while New York bleeds residents. That's why people are leaving blue cities in record numbers. They're voting not at the ballot box, but with their feet. This isn't just politics. It's a national shift, expecting another rush of incoming new. This wasn't just a political scandal. It was a real-time migration, the physical manifestation of lost trust. What's happening in New York isn't new. We've seen it in Chicago, Los Angeles, Baltimore, Detroit, cities once thriving, now shrinking. The formula never changes. On promised utopia, tax heavily, expand bureaucracy, watch the productive class flee. These aren't the death throes of cities, they're the end of a governing philosophy built on control instead of trust. The divide is no longer just left versus right. It's between leaders who trust people to make their own choices and leaders who don't. That's what Trump's healthcare play symbolized. He said, I trust you to make your own decisions. Schumer's position said, we'll handle it for you. The same split explains why it's about rebuilding trust in communities and individuals and in freedom itself. When people are trusted, they build. When they're managed, they leave. And right now, millions are leaving from broken systems, from failed promises, and from leaders who mistake control for competence. That's the story unfolding in real time. And the next chapter belongs to those who believe Americans can run their own lives better than any bureaucrat ever could. You notice politics isn't really about policy anymore. It's about power and who can fake confidence the longest before reality calls their bluff. And that's exactly what just happened. Chuck Schumer thought he was playing 4D chess with Donald Trump. He tried to weaponize a government shutdown, thinking Trump would take the blame and cave, get a fraction, if anything. The kicker, no actual proof those subsidies lower premiums or expand coverage, just a whole lot of bureaucratic bloat and executive bonuses. Schumer assumed Trump would fold under pressure, except Trump doesn't fold. He waits, watches, then strikes when everyone's too committed to backtrack. So what did he do? He threw down the wild card. Fine, you want to spend money on healthcare. Let's send it straight to the people. Forget the middlemen. Forget the bloated corporations. Trump proposed direct health accounts for citizens. Real control over your own medical money. Suddenly, Democrats were trapped defending billion-dollar insurance firms, while Republicans got to say, we're fighting for working. Headed south, the phones ringing off the hook. In Florida, real estate offices, when people lose faith in leadership, they don't argue, they move. That's not politics. That's physics. That's not. We've seen this movie before. Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, Baltimore. Every city that goes all in on progressive governance ends up with the same formula: higher taxes, fewer jobs, more crime, and a shrinking population. It's not bad luck. It's bad design. These cities are built on control of housing, energy, education, and your everyday life. The problem? People don't want to be managed. They want to be free. You can only micromanage a society for so long before it breaks. And when it breaks, people don't. The working class that once voted Democrat is now drifting toward anyone, Republican, independent populist, who speaks directly to their struggles. Trump's strategy isn't ideological. It's emotional. It's about trust, ownership, and control over your own destiny. And that message cuts deeper than any policy paper ever could. Every time Democrats defend the establishment, whether it's big pharma, big tech, or big insurance, they lose another chunk of the middle. Schumer shut down Bluff, failed because it was built on fear that people wouldn't notice where the money was really going. Mamdani's collapse happened because his revolution was built on illusion, that socialism could work without corruption, hypocrisy, or competence. And Trump, he